Okay, so today's commentary is going to be a bit of what I like to call a bipolar sandwich. It's like a technique that politicians like to use when they say, well, not in the same sense, but you know how sometimes they'll say, oh, they'll start with something good and then they'll move on to something which is bad but has to be said, and then they'll end with something good just to, you know, leave a good tone at the end. It's going to be kind of like that, a bit of a bipolar sandwich. And I thought I'd start off by saying, I was thinking last night and I was thinking, how did I get into gaming in the first place? What is it that actually started it off? And I think it dates back to one time I was going, like I was pretty young, I was probably maybe 5 or 6 years old. And I was with my parents. We go to one of their friends' houses and they just happened to have a Sega Mega Drive, or a Genesis if you call it that. And they had Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which I think, I may be wrong, but that might have been the first game I ever played. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is why I'm so sort of attached to the Sonic games. And then soon after, we got our own Master System and the original Sonic the Hedgehog and whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started, and it kind of made me think, why is it that I've kept gaming all these years? Like, what has kept me coming back to them? Why do I still play them even when I'm 20 years old? And honestly, I can see myself playing games when I'm in my retirement home. Like, I'll be some hipster old man telling all the younger people, oh, back in my day we only had Call of Duty 10. Nowadays you've got Call of Duty virtual reality, space warfare, Nazis on the moon, that kind of stuff. And I kind of realized that as I was growing up, as I was a teenager, like, most kids like video games. If you show them to them for the first time, they'll enjoy them. But then you kind of get this divergence of sort of personalities. A lot of kids will go on to be like the more sporty kids. They'll be more into playing football with their team, or I don't know, they go out more, they socialize more. I'm not saying that gamers can't do those things, I'm just saying, like, as a generality, speaking in very general terms, you kind of get these diverging groups of people. And you can guess which kind of group I was in. I was the kind of guy who was very introvert, kind of liked staying in, playing games by myself, that kind of stuff. I don't know why, that's just kind of the genetic dice roll I got in my brain composition. But pretty much, I think as a teenager, I had a lot of problems with sort of being sociable at school, making friends, you know, probably a few bullying issues as well as a kid. And when it came to sort of like 17, 18, that's the sort of time that if you have these sort of inbuilt problems as a child, that's when they manifest themselves in the form of depression, anxiety, whatever, that kind of stuff. And I've had my fair share, believe me. And I say that because I can look back at it now and I don't want to say laugh, but I can look back in like a light-hearted manner, if you like. I can look back and honestly, there were times when I was, what, 17, 18, where I would happily just have committed suicide just to end it all, end the pain, end the suffering, whatever. And like I said, I can talk about it lightly now because I'm over it pretty much. It's sort of a phase which a lot of teenagers go through. And I'm bringing that up now. This is the depressive part of the sandwich, if you haven't guessed. I'm bringing it up now because I know that gaming was kind of the one thing, or one of the things, that kind of got me through these kind of horrible, what do you call them, sort of hormone crazy periods in the body where your brain just wants to give up pretty much. And I know for a fact there'll be people watching this who have experienced the same thing. I also know commentators who have also mentioned the same thing in commentaries. And my friend raised an interesting point the other day. He said something about, he was probably drunk at the time, but I think he was talking sense when he said that I made some comment about some attractive redhead in McDonald's when we were sat there. And he said something like, oh, is that a common thing amongst gamers then? Because I swear all gamers seem to like redheads. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but I remembered it the next day and I was like, wait, you've got a point there. I say to anyone who doesn't play games, oh, redheads are really attractive, there's something about them, you know? And they think I'm crazy, like, is this like a niche thing? Is it only gamers that like them? Because there definitely seems to be some sort of correlation there. And again, I'm speaking completely in generalities. Half of what I'm saying probably isn't correct, but I'm just saying there's some kind of correlation there. And along with that, along with, you know, these random examples like, oh, you like redheads, whatever. There's also these examples like, gamers tend to be more emotionally vulnerable, if you like. Like, if you think about the average kind of, I want to say mentally disabled person, I don't mean that in an offensive way because I consider myself to be in the same category. I say that because I can get on a bus, I see a seat that says, reserved for disabled people only. I can happily sit in that, and if anyone asks, I say, hey, I'm mentally disabled. Don't care. I say that because anyone who's had these problems with depression, anxiety, whatever, in the past or in the present, whatever, doesn't matter, they all sort of share these similar characteristics, and there seems to be a good correlation between gamers and people who are mentally disabled, as I would put it. And, like I said, nothing to be ashamed of. I'm in that same category. It's just something that you're born with, you naturally develop, or I guess you're not naturally born with it, but it's something which you may get either through genetics or environment or whatever. But there's nothing much you can do about it. Eventually you kind of get to the point when you're sort of, I don't know, 18, 19, where if there's anyone who is suffering these same kind of problems at the moment where they think, you know, I would rather just kill myself, get out of the way. And it is something you have to be very serious about. I'm not saying it like it's a joke or something you should treat lightly. But I say to anyone who is considering that, just think about it this way. I'm not going to patronize you by saying, oh, it's a waste of life, you should talk to a counselor, blah blah blah. Think about it this way. When you're suffering these kind of depression, anxiety things, whatever, you're obviously kind of experiencing like negative happiness, if you like. Think about it just in terms of numbers. You got negative happiness, and if you were to kill yourself, you would have 0 happiness because you'd be like neutral, if you like. You wouldn't be happy, but you wouldn't be unhappy because you'd be dead, I assume. I don't know what happens in the afterlife, but I assume that's kind of the way I thought about it. At the time, I thought, if I kill myself, I'm back to neutral again, so it's fine. But then I thought, actually no. If you work on it, if you find out what the problem is and you fix it, whatever it may be, you find some way of... Like, I went to university, I became a lot more sociable, I started enjoying my life a lot more. There was a point where I didn't want to leave the house, honestly, when I was like 17, 18. But I fixed that, I went to university, got a lot happier, and here I am. Happy as can be. And that's the point, you find a way to fix it and eventually you come out of it. And the point I was trying to make there, that was a long rant there, was that gaming definitely helped me get through that. And as well as that, I've always been, this is the happy side of the sandwich again, gaming has always been fascinating both in the way it entertains me, like I can play games for hours and not get bored. And the way they're made, I've also done a bit of programming, so it's kind of fascinating to see the mechanics of a game, what goes into it, and you know, how it is that people make them. The ideas that go into it for a start, and then the actual programming expertise that goes behind it, is really fascinating to me, so long live the gamers is what I say. Hopefully I will be gaming until I die. I assume most of you guys will be as well if you're watching this. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, and with that being said, I will see you all next time. Goodbye.